All right. All right. Is everybody up? Yep.
Honorable Judge Robertson is presiding.
Please be seated. Okay, I've read the docket. This is the case of Wisconsin versus Yoder. Are the parties for the petitioner present?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Oh, yes, Your Honor.
I'm sorry?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Parties for the defendant, the respondent present.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, counselors. Welcome. Okay, this is the case Wisconsin versus Yoder. I'm going to read the background, the facts, tell you the issue, and then we're going to go into the details of the case. As for the background, this is a First Amendment case that protects the right of people to exercise their religion freedom. This means that the government cannot outlaw any religious beliefs. Sometimes, however, conduct related to those beliefs conflicts with government laws and regulations. In these cases, courts are asked to rule on whether the government is allowed to forbid some conduct required by someone's religious belief or compel conduct that is forbidden by that belief. This is a case about the free exercise of religious beliefs of Amish and Mennonite communities. The Amish and Mennonite sects of Christianity view individualism, competition, and self-promotion as vices that separate members from God, one another, and their own salvation. In order to preserve these values, each rural community seeks to become largely self-sufficient, providing for its members' needs with minimal support from those outside the community. These beliefs led many communities to stop formal education in the form of public, private, or homeschooling for their children after the age of 14. For generations that approach aligned with state and local laws related to the number of years children were required to be in school. For generations that approach aligned. In the mid-20th century, however, many U.S. states raised the age to which children must attend school, and that created conflict with old order Amish and Mennonite practices. So the state changed the policy to extend your time in school. There's a little general background. Now, the facts of this particular case. The state of Wisconsin convicted 3 members of old order Amish and Mennonite communities for violating the state's compulsory education law, which requires attendance at school until the age of 16. Frida Yoder and 2 other students had stopped attending school at the end of 8th grade. The Amish claim that their religious faith and their mode of life are inseparable and interdependent. They sincerely believe that exposure to competitive pressures of formal schooling, the content of higher learning, and removal from religiously infused practices of daily life will endanger children's salvation, the parents' own salvation, and the continuation of the Amish community itself. The Amish community provides an alternative education that adequately prepares children for their adult roles within their community. This alternative education also prepares them to be law-abiding and self-sufficient. Mr. Yoder and the other parents were convicted in Wisconsin Circuit Court for their students' truancy, that's failure to attend compulsory schooling. They were required to pay a $5 fine, which they refused to do as a matter of conscience. The Yoders appealed to the Wisconsin Supreme Court on the grounds that their family's First Amendment free exercise rights were violated. The state Supreme Court agreed and reversed the circuit court's decision, ruling in favor of Yoder. The state of Wisconsin sought review by the U.S. Supreme Court, which agreed to hear the case. So this is a case where the issue is, under what conditions does the state's interest in promoting compulsory education override parents' First Amendment rights to free exercise of religion? This is a freedom of religion case. So, we have the parties present. At this point, counsel for the petitioners, are you prepared to make your opening statements?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, counselor?
Yes, Your Honor.
Proceed. I'd like to remind the court you can say here, here, and shame, shame if you wish.
Okay. Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, today you will hear a case about how our client's daughter was forced to go against their beliefs due to Wisconsin violating the First Amendment.
Here, here. Here, here. Here, here.
Okay. Thank you, Counselor. Counselors, for the respondent, are you prepared to open it?
Yes, Your Honor.
Proceed.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and Your Honor. You will be presented a case revolving around freedom of religion and why we were right in the matter of fining the students' parents for $5 for allowing their students to dismiss school at the end of 8th grade. This was a violation of the state's compulsory education law, which requires attendance at school until the age of 16. Therefore, there should be no liable reason for students to be excused from school. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, in the Lord.
Thank you, Counselor. Okay, I think at this point we'll proceed into arguments. Petitioner?
Your Honor, the First Amendment states that the Congress shall make no law restricting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. The state of Wisconsin did that when they tried to force our client to go to a school that's against their religious beliefs. Our side's trying to argue that we've pulled them out of school completely, but as it states, the Amish community provides education that makes them a productive member of their society that follows their religion. They didn't pull the students out of school, they just chose to homeschool them with a curriculum that doesn't restrict their religion.
Counselor? Counselor, you're representing which side?
Yoder?
You're representing Yoder? Are you Yoder? Okay, so, okay. Any more points you'd like to make, Counselor?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, so I may have a couple of questions, Counselor. If you'll approach back. Thank you. Okay, so you're basing your case on what legal precedent?
The First Amendment.
First Amendment. What part of the First Amendment, Counselor?
That they're not allowed to restrict our religion.
Okay, so what you're alleging is that the state of Wisconsin is restricting your religion by how?
By forcing them to go to a school and teaching them things that go against their religious beliefs.
Okay, Counselor, but how do you reconcile that with the other portion of the First Amendment that says, shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion? So is your policy establishing a religion?
No, Your Honor.
So if I ask you, Counselor, if I may, is a neutral curriculum with no religious basis on it? Is that correct or not?
Yes, but at the same time, you also have a right to homeschool your children, which is what our client chose.
But let's focus on your policy with your curriculum, Counselor, okay? So you're saying that the state of Wisconsin, are they promoting a religion?
They're prohibiting our religion because our religion goes against accepting outside help.
So if you did not believe in a God, would that, and they promoted a policy of that, would that in effect be classified as religion too?
Not believing in a God is a religion.
So you're saying by them having this neutral policy, it's not really neutral?
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh, interesting concept, Counselor. Okay, is there any other amendment that plays into your legal precedent? You may consult with co-counsel if you would. Are there any other amendments that support your position?
The 14th Amendment.
The 14th Amendment, Counselor?
Yes, Your Honor.
What portion of that?
Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property due to the process of law.
So due process of law, that implies that it's a fair process?
Yes.
So to be fair, you have to treat people differently or equally or how?
Equally.
Equally. All right, is the school district doing that in this case?
No, they are not.
Okay, very good, Counselor. How are they not?
It says they're neutral, but at the same time, being in the school in general goes against their religion.
Okay, and your reasoning for pulling them out of school is based on your sincere religious beliefs?
Yes.
And you said earlier that your side promotes, they still get the education just in your world.
They still get the education, and that makes them a productive member of society.
All right. Okay, Counselor. Would you agree that the other side has a compelling government interest to make this policy? What is the role of the Wisconsin School District?
They think that that our education won't make them a productive member of society due to the fact if they choose not to continue the Amish belief, yet at the same time we understand that they might not choose to that, so we also prepare them for that.
Okay, Counselor. Do you have any more legal precedent? Is there any other court cases that would support your position? Let's home in on, I got two cases in my research here. Pierce versus Society of Sisters. Does that case help you or hurt you, Counselor?
Help us?
How does it help you, Counselor?
They sided with the nuns. Oh wait, no.
That's a case where a state had banned private school attendance to eliminate religious schools, right?
Yes.
And required parents or guardians to send their children to local public schools
Yes, Your Honor.
between the ages of 8 and 16.
Yes, Your Honor.
Almost similar to this in a way. They sued, right? The school?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what was the outcome of that case? Ultimately, what happened?
The nuns lost
Why did they lose?
because they say that the state has important interest in providing public education, but them doing that restricts the First Amendment to teach their religion if they're also teaching their curriculum, which is what our client is.
All right, Counselor, are you sure about that ruling? You would like to consult with your co-counsel? Is that the ultimate decision? You may want to look at the last sentence and tell me what you think.
Oh wait, yeah, I read it wrong.
That's fair enough, Counselor. How did you read it wrong? Help the jury understand it.
I missed a word in it.
Okay, well, tell us how, so does it help your case or hurt your
It
case?
helps our case because the state decided that they couldn't, it states, as long as private school provided education would adequately prepare students, the state could not prevent religious parents or communities from educating students in private school.
Okay, very good. And let's do one more case, the Prince versus Massachusetts case. That's a case where an individual challenged a conviction under Massachusetts child labor laws that prevented boys under the age of 12 and girls under the age of 18 from selling any publications or other forms of merchandise in public places. So they were selling or handing out religious literature, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what did the court ultimately decide in that case? Did they uphold the right of the individual to sell the literature?
That states generally applicable regulations to protect child welfare could override the parents' free exercise of religion.
So did the parents win or lose in that case?
Lost.
They lost. So does that support your case or hurt it?
Neither, because this isn't a case of us selling something, it's us in a school manner.
Ah, counselor, very interesting. So you're distinguishing that case. Interesting. Okay, take that under consideration. All right, counsels for the petitioner, do you have any witnesses you'd like to call?
We'd like to call witness 1 up to the stand.
Okay. Here, here. The audience is free, the jury's free to say here, here, or shame, shame, if they wish, right?
Want to get sworn in?
Yes, the bailiff's coming around. Thank you, counsel. You can just stand in front of the chair over here. Thank you, bailiff. And make sure you tell them to raise their right hand. And do they swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, got it.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth? No,
That's good. The whole truth.
the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Here, here.
Okay. All right, counselor, proceed. It's your witness. Whatever you'd like to ask the witness.
I don't know.
You can consult with co-counsel if you wish.
Okay.
And this is a witness for who? Who? Okay, they work for. Ask them.
Where do you work?
I'm a member of the Amish Order.
Okay. So I have a question. So basically, they say that we provide an education that makes them a productive member of society. Can you explain how we do that and prepare the children in case they choose to leave?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So in the Amish community, it is a long-standing tradition that we don't just prepare students to lead a religiously good life, because we have very strong convictions about the right way to live religiously, which we are contesting in this case. But furthermore, we think we prepare our students adequately to meet challenges whether they decide to live in the Amish community or outside of the Amish community. So we might teach them practical skills that you might learn in any other high school class: woodworking, shop, history, mathematics, these sorts of skills that are going to be necessary for students to one day go off to either be in an Amish community or be in a secular community. And we think we do a pretty darn good job about preparing students for that. Because in addition to giving them these lessons, we also teach them religious studies. But I think the core distinction between the Amish community's teaching practices and those in the secular community is that we have far more one-on-one attention for our students, simply because there is far more so there are far fewer students, so there's far more opportunity for teachers to take an active role in the education of students. So we think because of the smaller class sizes, the more focused attention, and the fact that we want to prepare our students both for life in a religious community and a secular community, that we are meeting our burden in educating our students sufficiently well.
So what you're saying basically is even if they choose to leave the Amish community, they would not be a burden on society.
Well, we don't think our students would ever be burdens on society. We think they are all, one of our core values is self-sufficiency and cultivation. So our main goal is to make sure that those students, whether they go off to live in an Amish community or secular community, are self-sufficient. And if self-sufficiency requires them to one day go off and get a job, if they decide to live in a secular community, we'd naturally provide them the skills they would need to do that.
Thank you, Your Honor. No more questions.
Here, here. Here, here. Thank you, Counselor. Counsel for the respondent, you wish to cross? Do you wish to question this witness? They brought the witness in to help their cause. Do you wish to dispute some of that? No. Do you wish to accept and concede? Okay. Counselor, a witness, you may step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Counselor for the petitioner, do you have another witness you'd like to call?
No, Your Honor.
You sure?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, why don't you just try it? Try it.
We'd like to call witness number 4 to the stand.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay.
Please raise your right hand.
All right.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, you may be seated.
Thank you.
Thank you, witness. All right, Counsel, you may proceed.
Can you please introduce yourself to our jury?
Okay, so my name is Dr. Eric Small. I am a member of the Amish community, and my role in the community is to help educate the students.
Thank you. Can you give us a basic idea of what you teach your students that you would see in the basic curriculum you get in public school?
Okay, so in the public school, the curriculum is sort of divided up between science and mathematics and history or geography. But in the Amish community, the curriculum is whole. So in addition to teaching the basics like science or mathematics, we also infuse our religious beliefs into the curriculum that we have for students.
So you're saying they're getting the same exact education they would get in a public school as they in the Amish community, except it follows the religious beliefs as well.
So we tend to think that they're not getting the same, they're getting much more. Because in addition to educating our students, we teach them to be members of the Amish community. And while our students can be members of the secular community, we don't think members of the secular community can be members of the Amish community without having a particular education in Amish religion, beliefs, and practices.
Thank you. No more questions.
Counsel for the respondents wish to cross-examine this witness. Proceed.
How do you feel, in which ways is your education more than ours?
Well, I think that the Amish community's education is more than a secular community's education, insofar as the students in the secular community are not required to take any particular religion courses, while members of the Amish community are required to take religious courses, particularly those in the Amish religion. So in that way, they're getting more of an education.
Are your students required to go to school? Or like required to go there, and if they drop out, they will be charged?
So not a requirement in the sense that the secular world think of requirements. So the secular world thinks of requirements in terms of benefits and punishments. So if you do something, you're benefited by it, and if you don't do something, you're punished for it. But the members of the Amish community choose to be Amish. So they look forward to the education that they get as members of the Amish community, and they want that education. Otherwise, they couldn't be full members of the Amish community. So we don't think of it as a requirement. We think of it as part of the regular life of members of the Amish community.
So how you feel that if students don't do things, they should be punished or somehow put in like not a bad place, but like, you know, I guess, yeah, like punished for it kind of. But just as we were in public school saying that students, if they were skipping school or staying out of school for a public school or your kind of school, they should be charged with some kind of fine or some sort of, you know, punishment for it.
Oh, so this might give us a time to talk about the differences between school in the secular world and school in the Amish community. So in the secular world, there's a building where students go and they're educated. But in the Amish community, students are educated in the homes and on the jobs and in the churches. So everywhere they go, they'll have a piece of the education that we like for our members to have. So it's not really possible to be a member of the Amish community and, as you might in the secular world, skip school. Because that would be akin to not being a member of a family, or not having a job, or not being a member of a church. And none of those things are possible in the Amish community.
I understand. No further questions.
Thank you, Counselor. Maybe dismissed. Thank you. Okay, counselors for the petitioner, do you have any more witnesses to call?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, do you rest?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, Counselor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Counsel for the respondents, you prepared to make your argument? Proceed.
Here, here.
Your Honor, state law requires students to attend school until 16.
Counselor, I just want to remind you, it's nice you're talking to me, but who are you trying to convince? Very good, Counselor. And I would go be friendly to him.
Okay, state law requires students to attend school until 16. If students don't attend school, how will they be able to build a stable future for students? We're not asking for students to appeal their religion, but rather practice them after school. We have fined 3 students for revolting against the education law required by the state. We're not punishing religion onto anyone, which establishes a neutral education, just like Yoder claims. They have. We did not fine them for their religion, but for the fact of committing truancy. We acted on behalf of justice by fining them.
A couple of clarification points for the court and the jury. This policy that you have, does it promote a religion or not?
It promotes them.
Okay, yeah, you represent a school district, correct? And that's part of government? So is the government supposed to promote a religion?
No, it doesn't promote or go
Where's the source that says the government's not supposed to promote a religion?
the first one.
Very good, counselor. So it says you shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, i.e. promoting it, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Are you prohibiting the Yoder's exercise of their religion?
No,
Why?
because
How is your policy not prohibit their religion, their exercise of their religion?
we're allowing them to continue to practice their religious beliefs after they attend school.
Okay, counselor, and your policy, you say it does not promote a particular religion, so it doesn't mention a religion? Okay, so my question for you, counselor, my follow-up, not believing in a religion or a God, per se, is that in itself, could that be considered a religion? Would you like to consult with counsel?
Can I answer?
Sure, counsel, you may approach.
We are not saying that we are pushing a religion onto anyone. Now, pushing a religion onto other students may feel uncomfortable to them, so we are not trying to make the students feel uncomfortable. We are not saying that they have to believe into a religion, and if they want to, we are not saying they can't practice it in school. We just want them to attend school. We do not punish them for their religion, and that we're just saying that they should be attending school and maybe trying to make time for their religion outside of school instead of putting it on to our time where we're trying to build the students for a better education and a better future.
So the preparation for their education and future, is that your compelling government interest to come up with a policy? Is that your justification?
Yes, we're trying to prepare them.
Okay, you familiar with the 14th Amendment, Counselor? If not, you may become familiar with it.
Yes.
And Counselor, what does that amendment concern?
That the state cannot deprive any person with life and liberty
Okay,
without the due process.
so it's due process. So in order to get a due process and a fair process in our system, you need to treat people equally or differently?
We're trying to treat all of our students equally.
Okay, are you treating the Yoders equally?
We're trying to, if any other student were caught skipping school, we would give them the same punishment that we were giving them. Here, here.
How do you square that with the fact that they're saying by the fact that you're denying them their right to practice their religion, i.e. by not coming to your school after a certain age, how is that giving them a fair process? Because you're just telling them no.
We're telling them no because the state law requires students to come to school at the age of 16, and if they're caught skipping school, we are not just going to let them off the hook. And if we did that with any other students, we would be in court with those students here today. And I guarantee you they would most likely win because they would have no reason. They may have reason to believe that they can skip school because of religion, but we want them to try to stay in school and practice their religion other places instead of doing it on our time. There's other times to practice religion, but we're trying to push it away from school time when we're trying to teach them for education and for their future.
Okay, Counselor. So your compelling government interest to prepare society, students, for the world, does that outweigh their right to practice their religion by not participating in that plan?
We're not trying to force them to practice it, but by finding them, we were trying to give them a punishment that was reasonable for any other student that we would give them. So if they're coming here and saying that they have their own their own school for religion, we respect that, but we still want them to, like, our state law says that you have to come to school, so we're just following by the law.
Okay, very good, Counselor. Are you familiar with the Pierce versus Society of Sisters case?
Yes.
Does that case on the whole seem to support your cause or hurt it in this case? What ultimately, that was the government, right, Oregon, banning private school attendance in an effort to eliminate religious schools and requiring parents or guardians to send their children to local public schools between the ages of 8 and 16. Ultimately, what did the court decide in that case? Could the government action be allowed to do that? Can they restrict someone from not going to a private religious school?
The state could not prevent religious parents or communities from educating schools in private schools.
Okay, so that's the case where the courts said that the state cannot do that. You're interfering with religion. So does that case support your cause or hurt it in this case? Hurt it. Does it apply in this case, or is there something different about that case that maybe we should consider it not applying? What was the government action? What were they banning?
They were banning private school attendance.
Okay, in your case, in this particular case, are you banning someone from going to school, or are you doing the opposite?
We're trying to get them to go to school.
Ah, so it's a little different then, isn't it, Counselor? Okay, so should I apply that case in reasoning here? Should this court apply that case, or should we not consider that case?
You should consider the case because we're not saying that they can't go to their school, but we're saying that they should at least, it would interfere with our school time, so we're not trying to say that you can't go to our school, or their school, but it wouldn't make sense if they were going to their school and our school at the same time.
So the decision in that case would not, your case is not exactly the same as that case, is what you're telling me.
Yes, because we're not banning them.
You're not banning them, you're doing the opposite, you're trying to make, okay, all right, and plus they can still do their religious school attendance. Okay, Prince versus Massachusetts, are you familiar with that case?
Yes.
Okay, and in that case, it was involving an individual convicted under the child labor laws that prevented boys under the age of 12 and girls under the age of 18 from selling any publications or other forms of merchandise in public places. So that individual was selling or promoting religious literature on the streets, correct? So what, did the government allow that? Did the courts allow the government to do that, ultimately?
The court reasoned that a state's general appliance regulation to protect child welfare.
So was the government successful in that case by restricting an individual from selling merchandise under that statute?
I think they said no because it was child labor.
Oh, you say they said no. I think what you're telling me is that they did not allow it, the government won?
Prohibiting the street and accepted the law prohibiting the
Distribution?
Of religious literature in public places by a minor.
Okay, so they upheld the law, so the government was able to do that. And what was the government's reasoning in that case? What was their compelling interest?
It was child welfare.
Child welfare?
It was.
So that the right to protect the child welfare outweighed someone's right for their religious beliefs? Is that what you're telling me, Counselor?
Yes.
Okay, so that case supports you or hurts you? Supports. Thank you, Counselor. Counselor, for the petitioner,
Yes, Your Honor.
how do you answer that? That case is saying that...
That doesn't apply to a school situation. That applies to selling literature.
I'm sorry, Counselor, I can't see you.
That doesn't apply to a school situation. That applies to them selling literature on the side of the road.
Very good, Counselor. So
Completely different.
you distinguished the case. Okay. All right. Thank you, Counselor. All right, Counselor, do you have any more points you'd like to make? Are you prepared to call witnesses? Okay. Well, who would you like to call, Counselor?
Can we call witness number 2?
Yeah.
Witness number 2.
Yeah.
Do you swear to say right now? Do you swear to tell the truth, the truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay. You may be seated.
Thank you, Bailiff.
Please introduce yourself to the jury.
All right, Counselor, I'm sorry. It's a little, there's a lot of people in here, so you need to speak up just a little bit, okay? So our court recorder can capture the vote.
Please introduce yourself to the jury.
I am an employee at the Wisconsin Department of Education.
So she works for the school district.
How do you believe that your school system is not better but helping students in their education?
Good question. So, at the Department of Education, we truly believe that we are providing curriculum to these children that extends into all different types of subjects so that we can prepare students to have well-rounded minds once they enter into the secular world. And in this way, we think that we are providing them the necessary resources so that once they become fully functioning rational adults, they can actually make decisions for themselves based off of any and all topics such as their religion or any other lifestyle choices that they choose to make.
So you're saying you're not prohibiting religion in your school system?
Within the school system itself, we like to believe that we have a pretty neutral policy towards other people. We treat others, every person the same exact way, but we also allow for, at the end of the day, for these students to go back to their homes and allow for their parents to impose on them whatever type of moral or other kind of teachings they would like to put onto their students. And so in that way, we see that there is a necessary balance between giving them a more far-reaching education system, as well as the ones that their parents want to impose on them.
So you said that you treat all students equal. So treating them equally means if other students were caught skipping school or doing this, you would give them the same punishment that you would give other students that were caught skipping school for any reason.
Mm-hmm. Yes, under our compulsory school attendance law, we believe that students up to the age of 16 should be attending public, private, or home schools with that necessary communication with the state so that we know that these students are getting this education. And in that way, if they do not make that communication with the state, then we must assume that they are skipping and therefore the fine is necessary.
No further questions.
Thank you. Council, would you like to cross?
Here, here.
I'd like to remind the audience you are allowed to say here, here, or shame, shame if you don't agree with it, all right?
Can you tell the courts what exactly you do in the school district of Wisconsin?
So in the school district, I'm actually their top supervisor of all the schools. I make sure I oversee all of the activities that are happening there. I kind of am a general supervisor where I make sure that everything is up to our standards.
So say a student's religion required them to pray every hour. Would you allow them to do that during school?
I think that there are definitely administration people and also teachers and other faculty that the student can go to and kind of work out some kind of conditions under which they can express some of their religion outside of the functions of the school.
You claim you treat every student equally. You're allowing that student to express their religion, but you're not allowing my client to express by staying home. And you say you're teaching them to be functioning students of society, as is our school system, but we're also teaching them to be functioning students of both societies, not just one like your school system.
I think we're missing out on a fundamental fact here that school ends at, what, 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock for certain schools. So I think that there is a necessary chunk at the end of the day where these students can go home, get that education, and wherein we're keeping this necessary balance that I think is most important within treating people equally.
Yes, but students are allowed to homeschool, which is what our students are doing, and you claim that they're not communicating correctly with you. Shouldn't that be something you should have tried to do first before fining us for following our religion?
Well, I think the distinction to be made here is that a homeschooler does have that communication with the state, wherein we are supervising and looking after their the conditions under which they are educating their students. But then on the side of Yoder and the Amish community, we don't see that communication, so we can't ensure that this student is getting the necessary welfare that they deserve.
Can you tell us what are some things they teach, like the key factors of what they teach? Like they teach math and reading and things along those lines. As did the Amish director say that we did too, along with the fact we also teach religion. So what's the problem with that? If they're getting the necessary education to be functioning members of either society they choose, which is a right as a citizen we have to choose what we want to do.
We do not disagree that the Amish community could be providing these students with a very well-rounded education, but there needs to be that communication with the state so that in order to ensure the welfare of these children, we can check in on them and make sure that they're getting the education that they need to be a well-rounded
Did you
citizen.
ever try and reach out to the Amish community to make sure with this communication?
Oh, isn't that what we're doing right here?
Shouldn't you have done it before finding them? You had plenty of time before you could have given them truancy to reach out to them, but you never did?
Well, I think that it's a well-known fact that we have this compulsory law, and that the fine itself was us telling them that they need to attend school.
But you're fining them for following their religion by going to their school and not your school.
Yes.
But your school goes against their religion and theirs doesn't. They're still getting the education they need, but it's following their religion. And you say you're fining them for not coming to school, but in doing that, you're fining them for not coming to a place that's against their religion. So isn't that technically making someone pay to follow the religion?
Well, I think it was you, council member, who told us that the Amish school is actually providing all of the education that we would be providing within our own schools, and we add that factor of they get to go home at the end of the day and get that extra religious aspect of it. And so I think in that way, we're still doing the same exact thing, except the state can be held responsible for making sure that these children actually get the necessary education that they need.
But our religion goes against accepting outside help, and us coming to your school technically would be accepting outside help, would it not?
I think that you could classify any and everything as outside help, so as long as you are not the sole person getting that for yourself. A child without the necessary rational capacities cannot make his way to school, cannot sit in a classroom, cannot learn things all on his own. He needs that necessary outside help, and so they're going to be getting that from the Amish community within it, and they're going to be getting that from the education systems at the state.
Yes,
Counselor, we're getting close to the end. They have one more witness to call,
Okay.
so if you could sum it up. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, once again, I'd like to remind you it's a large room, a lot of people in the room, so if you could speak up, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Please introduce yourself to the jury.
My name is Rahmat Rashid, and I am a teacher in the Wisconsin public school system.
You may consult with counsel.
So do you feel that your teachings would benefit with the law more than the other?
Benefit the law more than what?
Counsel, would you like to approach? No.
Okay. How do you feel as a teacher that your students are learning in a better way and in a better environment than here, and how you're not violating the law by allowing students to skip school? So how do you feel that your teachings would still benefit students?
I believe that my teachings benefit students in that it is much clearer and more advanced than what is being taught in the Amish community, because while we have not exactly seen what's happening in the Amish community, that is exactly the problem. We don't know what standard of education they're being held to, and that is exactly the reason why there is a public school system that everyone is mandated to go to, because that is the system that works.
Counsel, you have a follow-up question?
So So you being a teacher, you're not pushing any religion onto any of the students?
Absolutely not. There is no religion being pushed on any students. That is the reason for a secular school system, in order that there is a neutral ground for all students to follow. If they would like to practice their own religion, that can be done on their own time, as long as it's not disrupting the functions of the school.
Okay, I think we're going to wrap up this witness because we got to do the closing. Okay? Thank you. Counselor for the petitioner, closing argument. You may be seated. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Helping us out with our client.
Order in the court, counselor.
As an American citizen has been restricted by the defendant.
Counsel for the respondent, closing.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have heard today that we had no right into violating the law and pushing any religion onto any of the students. Therefore, we did not push any of the religion onto the students, and we're not saying that they cannot attend their school. We're saying that they should still be attending our school, and they were committing truancy. We would do the same to any other student if they were caught skipping school, so we did the same exact thing, and that's what it means to be equal. We were just being equal by not violating the law and saying that they couldn't, attend their school. They can still perform religion, but it needs to be outside of the school. We're not trying to push any religion onto the students, and that's what we did in our public schools. We don't even know what's going on to their schools. How do we know that their schools are better than ours? It's just our word against theirs. So you need to pick one side of the story, but please believe that we did not violate any of the laws and we did the right thing. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, counselor. At this point, for time's sake, the jury, if you'll discuss amongst yourselves, and you're the jury foreperson, you'll take a vote and inform us of which side you think should prevail. Particularly, do you find that with Yoder's right to practice their religion was infringed upon by the state? Thank you.
You got 2 minutes.
My class, please be seated. Order in court, we're waiting on the jury verdict. Has the jury reached the verdict?
We said Yoders.
I'm sorry, please stand. Jury foreperson.
We said
Thank
Yoders.
you. You find what?
The Yoders.
The Yoders had their rights violated or not?
Not.
Not. So they find in favor, not liable for the state of Wisconsin?
Yes.
Okay. State of Wisconsin, case is kicked out, you're not liable. Court's adjourned. All right?
That means we lost, right?
You lost. All right.